Okay, it's recording. Hello and welcome everybody. I'm very happy to see you and to have a new opportunity to join and to connect, to have conversations face to face, even through these either, but a bit more personal than just writing and typing. To start, I want to invite you to close your eyes for a moment, and if you feel comfortable, close your eyes and just sit as straight as possible. Relax your breath. Relax your being. Just feel the breath in your body coming in, going out. Just feel how it affects your body. Just feel how your lungs are widening and getting smaller when you exhale. And then I want to invite you to connect to your own state of health. Welcome yourself in the place where you just are, in the state in which you are. And observe it a little bit. Do you have a word for the state that you are in? Do you feel balanced? Do you feel vital? Maybe you don't feel so much energy. Do you feel slow or agitated? Maybe nervous, maybe not. Maybe curious. Just connect to that moment and your state. How do you feel? How do you feel in terms of health? And just observe it and don't judge it. Just let it be as it is. And from that state where you are, feel a connection to all the others in the group that are present right now. To everyone in the course that is not present, who cannot join, and connect to your environment. How does that feel? How do you feel in that connection? Everything is okay. However you feel and perceive that connection. And then take a very deep inhale. Exhale. Inhale again, deeply. And just put your intention to be here, present, just where you are. Exhale. And then you can slowly open your eyes. All right, wonderful you're here. We start today a new module of this worldview dimension. And the main topic this module is about is health. And as a start, when I had lunch today, I had a good lunch. But afterwards, I felt very full, I felt really like heavy, as if I would have eaten much too much. But it was not so much what I have eaten. But I felt really full in my stomach. And that reminded me to something which is in Germany, where I grew up, which is quite a common thing, especially when people go out or if they meet in groups with friends or family. At the end of a meal, you have a little schnapps, little glass of alcohol or liquor or something, because people say, yeah, this would help digestion. And this reminds me always to this situation that we tend to, for example, when we eat, we just take something in, and after having done this, then we think, okay, maybe something was not so good, and how can we feel better afterwards? What can we do to optimize the situation that we somehow disturbed ourselves before? No? And I guess, I'm not sure, but that's one part of the question I have. In your cultures, do you have similar experiences or similar habits that you recognize in eating food and how to digest, or what do you do? Maybe someone wants to share something from their own culture and how you handle these kind of situations.
We drink Turkish coffee after the meals. They believe that it's a digestive thing. So everyone actually drinks Turkish coffee. It's a coffee with boiling, preparing with boiling. And another thing is theme tea, I think. Some of the villagers use it, but not so randomly used. That's all.
Did you say green tea?
No, not green tea. Theme.
Team. Time?
Mm-hmm.
Team.
Yes, time.
I'm not sure if you. What do you mean? Is it a herb or no?
Herb, yes. It is
herb. Okay. Okay, and how do you use this herb? It's just pure the herb and you chew on it, or is it prepared?
You boil water first, then you add in it. You wait for 5 seconds, then you put it off and drink.
Okay, okay. It's kind of like a infusion or a tea, something like that. Yeah. Interesting. And no alcohol?
No. No alcohol.
Okay. Wise. Wise, I would say. Okay, I'll tell you in a moment why. Maybe someone else wants to share. Yeah.
Hi there. Being in the United States, we just don't have the respect for eating that other countries do, it seems like. It's more of a fast food culture, and I don't know of any rituals that we have regarding, other than Thanksgiving, we give thanks, and I do it more on a personal level, giving thanks to my food, but it's not really done here, and it's kind of sad that we don't have that sort of respect for our digestion, where our food came from, all that kind of stuff. But what we do or don't do.
Thank you. There's interesting that you remind about this Thanksgiving, which comes. It's once a year, no? Isn't it?
Yeah,
once a year. But
once a year.
When you talked about Thanksgiving, which I think is quite popular, is maybe not the right word, but it's yeah, maybe we just say it's popular. No, it's many people are active in this Thanksgiving on these days. At least that's what I perceive. That in the United States you get a lot of activities around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's really the only time we celebrate food is Thanksgiving, and but I think most people don't really. To me, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday just because I think it's important to give thanks. But it's really the only time of year we do that as a culture, and I don't honestly think most people, they just see it as a way to get together and eat. It doesn't seem like most people really give thanks on that day, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Do you see a relation to health when you think of Thanksgiving?
Oh yeah, I mean, Americans are the most unhealthy country around, yet we have access to so much. But most when they just frankly make pigs of themselves. They just eat and then they pass out because they've eaten too much. There just is a real disrespect of themselves that I see, and where the food came from. But hopefully that'll change.
Yeah, but the things. I mean, people you say have unhealthy eating habits, but they celebrate Thanksgiving, and that doesn't work
Yes.
as a reminder for them to eat more healthy.
Generally not. In general, I'd say most of the population, they just see it as it's an excuse to eat as much as they can, so to speak. It's kind of strange. I don't really understand it, but that's just the way it is.
Okay. So on Thanksgiving Day, it's just the day to eat even more, maybe?
Yeah, because everybody really eats too much on that day, and it's expected, and it's excusable. It's okay to eat 3 servings of food. It's just very strange. I mean, I personally don't, but most people do.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, I imagine it could be an expression of abundance, which is also nice, no? But on the other hand, I see also a potential in this Thanksgiving to be more conscious about what you eat and how much you eat, no?
Right. Yeah. And the care that's put into, to me, I enjoy the ritual of making the food and taking care in what you make and the time and coming together and making things together. But generally, most people just want to show up and eat and pass out afterwards. It's embarrassing to admit that is the American culture. That, and it's like, okay, it's not really the culture I want, but that is our culture.
Uh-huh. It's very, very, very interesting because it's it's smaller or bigger rituals, no? What we have, like this ritual to have a schnapps, or the ritual to drink the coffee, or the ritual for Thanksgiving. And yeah, but what are these rituals for? To remind us to something, to bring us to more consciousness, or is it it has become just a routine because you do it and it's the day where you meet, or it's what you do anyway? But do you feel what happens when the coffee goes into your body? Is it really yeah, does it really relate to your digestion, things like that?
Yeah, it's unusual because most people will overeat on that day and they'll feel terrible afterwards. And, I'm thinking, well, then why do you do it? But they do it anyway. And then a lot of people drink too much because they don't want to be around their families. It's very strange. The whole thing is very strange to me.
Yeah, it is, but that's how we are as human beings, seemingly. Yeah? That happens in many different ways. I would like to ask Nadia, where are you from? In which country? And do you have some rituals to share or any digestive habits?
So I come from the south of France and I currently live in England, and there's definitely some differences there. I think it relates a little bit to what Juliet was saying. So in France, food is more gathering. So you eat because either because you care for the taste of food, or you care for the people that you're having food with or preparing food with. And alcohol is also included in French food, but in a different way than it is in England. So people would care, for example, what kind of wine they have and when they have it. We also have digestives, and we also have aperitif, which I don't know whether it does anything to your health or your digestive system. I don't know whether it helps with the food. But usually at the aperitif, people would say they would wish each other like good health. So they would just, you know, take the glass and say "à votre santé," for example, to your good health. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know whether there is a meaning to this ritual or not. And in comparison, in England, I feel it's maybe a bit like in America. The majority of people don't care so much for what they eat, for the quality of the food, for the significance of eating together, for even, I mean, most of the British people I know, their family don't eat their meals together. And if they meet with friends, they go out. And the drinking habit here is very different. It's just going to the pub. It's not necessarily related to digesting your food. So I'm not too sure what the ritual is around health or food in the UK. I've lived here long enough and I still can't answer that question.
Thank you. But even from two cultures, you can share something. What stood out for me was that you said "à votre santé." No, you say something. At least you refer to health.
Yeah.
And when you say that, no, santé is
Santé,
health,
yes.
And you have also as a start before you eat, you have bon appétit. No,
Yes.
and we have an expression in German. But as far as I know, in English-speaking countries, there is not such a real expression referring to when you start eating your food. You can say, enjoy your meal, but there is not something like literally bon appetit, no?
Mm. They are in the UK, at least, they use the French term, they say bon appétit.
Okay.
So I think it's a new fashion, maybe.
Yeah. Something here. Okay. Sorry, there was something. Yeah, I think this is really interesting details about this topic of health and how we relate to this. Because I was so interested in these kind of habits before we started, I checked a little bit about this. What do they say? Is there really a reason for drinking schnapps? Does this really work? And what I read that coffee indeed could have a start a digestive stimulation, but schnapps or any alcohol normally doesn't. It does the opposite. It just goes into your brain very quickly, and it even stops the connection between brain and stomach or any part of the digestive system. So the digestion would be even worse. But if you drink a liquor, for example, and there are herbs in it, that might work because there are herbs in it. So it's the herbs, but not the alcohol. It's maybe just an excuse to drink more alcohol, you know? And and because you have eaten maybe very fat and heavy meal, and then you put something extra on top of it, which is again unhealthy. I think this is quite showing a lot about how we relate to ourselves and our bodies. And because one of the topics that we have in this module is salutogenesis, which did you hear about this? Salutogenesis, salutogenesis. It is basically our system normally in most European countries, or maybe in most countries in the world, I don't know. But in many countries, it's happening what we just described more or less. Like we do something which is we spend our lives in a certain way and then become sick, and then we try to repair or to heal what has become sick. But salutogenesis would be another approach to think of, I'm healthy, how can I sustain my healthy state? Instead of waiting, okay, something is disbalanced, in disorder, and how can we repair that now? Does it speak to you? Is there...
Yeah, I think what I've noticed here is a lot of new trends in food in Britain, at least. I don't know if it happens elsewhere, for more natural type of product, but they're being advertised all as healthy, and they're being sold a little bit as a natural cure. So there's all sorts of mostly herbal teas, but some kind of other juices maybe, another kind of food as well, and they're very popular now. So I think that relates to what you're saying. That these kind of drinks are probably used elsewhere in the world as part of their culture, as part of maintenance of health from the start, rather than the way that it's being used here as a product to buy and to consume, and as a new product on the market. So people want to go and try it because it's the new thing and it's the latest thing in the health business, basically. So there's all sorts of mostly teas, but all sorts of other things that I keep see around.
Yeah, indeed. I recognize what you say. Is it also Turkey or United States?
Yes, it is here too. Actually, we have a traditional habit for what you have said before. In my culture, it is suggested us for to eat less. Don't fool your stomach. Give some emptiness in it, even a plate or more maybe. And don't drink water before you eat. Don't drink water after you eat. At least 3 hours later, you have to drink water if you need it. And don't eat after 7 o'clock at night. During at least I think 6 hours, you have to be you have to give a break for eating for 6 hours in a day. You eat your breakfast or at 9 o'clock, then you wait for 6 hours to eat your lunch. That's a habit actually, but no one is using it anymore. We are not healthy, so we are not eating organic food or at least vegetables or fruits, because the working hours got complicated. No one has a chance to go their home at certain hours, so nobody can make their meals at home. They eat what they can find, so we are not healthy anymore. We know something to be healthy in our tradition. We know it is in our knowledge, but we can't use it anymore. It's a sad thing, I think. And maybe nobody believes it anymore because no one sees any examples using these habits in their lives.
Yeah, thank you. That's very interesting because I heard different variations already about how much water is okay while eating, and how much time should you not drink water before or after. But there is something I know, for example, from Ayurveda. Did you hear about Ayurveda, Ayurvedic tradition, Indian tradition? And in Ayurvedic tradition, there is a lot about food and health. And in Ayurvedic tradition, there is this approach that you have 3 doshas, which describes your constitution, how your body, how your person is constituted. Yeah, what makes your body, your personality, your whole being. And according to that, you can have you can choose your diet, because some food will balance your dosha, and some other food will not balance it, or will make it stronger. Yeah, you have the 3 doshas, and maybe I'm not an expert in it, not at all, but for example, I just say if you eat carrots and you have vata dosha maybe dominantly, then the question is, okay, carrots bring this dosha to a stronger level or to a lower level? So from the start, you can know about your constitution, and you can choose the food that helps you to stay in balance. And there is also speaking about water, because the digestion is connected to this fire element, and fire and water, it's always the question, how does this go together? And so it said normally also don't drink with food, just only 1 glass, and maybe it should be also a little bit warm, not ice cold water. So there are these kind of traditions, and it's very beautiful what you tell, that there in Turkey there are these kind of traditions, or there is, you at least have knowledge about it, but yeah, I think in many countries we lost these the connection to these knowledges. Yeah, like many people lost, or many countries lost the knowledge about herbs that you find and what the effect of these herbs is. And if you just would know it, you would have a lot of very healthy food just in front of your nose. It's growing in your garden or on the street or in the nearby nature, if you just would know it. And luckily there are still people who know about this, and it's very precious that they pass this knowledge on. Yeah.
Here, one thing I've noticed that's in the United States, there is a lot more access to organic foods and produce now that wasn't around 10 years ago. So it's growing. And I've also noticed a lot more people are starting to grow their own food. It's a very small percentage of the population, but the more you look for it, the more you're aware that it's happening. And so to me, that's exciting, because we're taking back the control of our own bodies that way. So it's a slow movement, but it's happening, and that's nice to see that.
Nice indeed. Yeah. Do you, someone of you, grow own food?
I have avocados and lemons and oranges, but that's all I have time for. But I will hopefully in the next year or two be able to grow a lot of my own produce. So, but it takes time and it takes a learning curve because I don't have any experience in that area. And so most of the things I grow will die. but I'm learning.
It's great to involve other people, maybe, who have a bit of knowledge, or to share your experience.
I know a mushroom farmer, and she's trying to teach me how to grow mushrooms. So, but those need care also. So.
What I understood, mushrooms can be quite simple, but you still have to, have how to start. But I'm also not a super specialist. I was trained in permaculture a little bit. But,
so one thing at a time.
Yeah, wonderful.
I am growing my food as well, especially vegetables. Not so many fruits we have because our land is in a very difficult area. We have very cold winters, and our fruit trees getting I don't know how to say, they die actually because of the winters, and so we don't have so much fruit in here, only berries, because they are much familiar with that temperatures, but we grow our food, vegetables, and we started a forest gardening here this year. That's much more better because we have using raised beds, but there is not so much tree in the field, so they are very open to the sun in the summer, so it's not good for them, and the water surface, and it is vaporizing. So we started to make our gardens in our little forest, and some say that pine trees damages the fruit if you grow your food under the palm trees, but we are growing under the pine trees and oak trees now. They are all good. They have a little shady areas, and we are using less water. They are looking very healthy. That's a good thing for us this year. I wanted to share. And we had some sheep 2 years ago, but we gave up shepherding because we need to go outside outside our land to the cities to give some workshops or seminars, etc. for work. So we gave up that. We don't have any animals except a cat because he can travel with us. Yes, that's a very teaching thing, I think, educating thing, to grow your own food, to see that process and eat it. So Thanksgiving thing maybe is related to growing. Even if you can't grow, I think you should see where you bought your food, who grows it. Maybe it gives you more connection with your own food in your body, because when you eat all of the situations that brings you. For example, if it's a happy farm, I think a vegetable is happy too. So it gives you more energy. If you bought it in a market, you don't know where it came from. If it is maybe some pesticides on it, that's not good for our health. So we must know where our food came to us, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I think so too. It's becomes more and more important to really know where your food is coming from, because and also we have so much processed food already, where you even can't really trace what kind of ingredients are in there. Yeah, but I think it's also what you described is really wonderful switch to this other part of this module, which is about the environmental health. No, so we are interrelated with our environment, and if our environment is healthy, then we are also have a better chance to live healthy. Still, we have to take our decisions for how much we eat and what we eat, but that we have a healthy environment is really basic to our own well-being and how we can live our lives. If we have all land destroyed with herbicides or pesticides, yeah, that limits very much our possibility to live healthy, no? Because all these toxins are already in there. How is it for you in London, Nadia? To have you a chance to grow food, or where do you get your food from?
Unfortunately, I don't grow food anymore, but I have done in the past. In my family home, my father was quite a keen gardener, and he would get excited about anything growing and watching its development until the end, and then collect the seeds for the next year and everything. But I still have that house, and contrary to what Kuba was saying, for me it's the fruits that are the easiest, because they are trees that are already settled. So although I don't live there and I only go there a few months a year, I can still benefit from the fruits. Whereas the vegetables, obviously, that would require me having to be there during the planting season, so I can't do that anymore. What I wanted to say is mostly the fruit, but also the vegetables that we used to grow. There was we never really thought about it in terms of food, but it made us be aware of the quality of the food when it was ripe to take, basically. And I noticed the difference with the people here in the UK, where most of the fruits are being imported from South Europe, and most of it doesn't taste of anything, and they're not ripe, and they don't have a nice smell. And when, for example, and I was growing up in the south of France, and I'm sure that's the case in many other places, if you walk down the street in front of a fruit and vegetable shop, you can smell it. And you don't really get that here in the UK. And sometimes my friends buy some fruits and they eat them, or they offer me some, and I tell them, but this is inedible, it's not even ripe. And they look at me as if I'm strange. They're like, oh, it looks normal. The point is, they don't even know what it's meant to taste like. They've never experienced the enjoyment of smelling the fruit and eating it and knowing when it's ripe. So I think that's a bit sad. And I think indirectly that's a sign of the health benefit of it. But also what we have, you were talking earlier about the herbs, and in the south of France, it's around the Mediterranean, so we have a lot of herbs included in the food. I don't know whether in the past they actually used it for medicine and for their health values. But if they have, this has definitely been lost now. However, we still use the herbs for cooking, mostly for taste. And this is something that I've also noticed being different in England, where herbs are not very popular. They're becoming more popular now, but they only pick up on 1 or 2 herbs that have become famous because of some celebrity chef or something like that. And it's more like an exotic thing. Oh, don't forget to put the basil in, but not really knowing which dish you have to put in. What does it do to your digestion? For example, mint is very good for digestion, but there is a bit of lack of knowledge here, which I find a little bit funny and a little bit sad as well, because it's a complete disconnection. There is a disconnection with the origin of food, with the nature. There is a disconnection with the enjoyment of food, with the taste. There is disconnection with health benefit. And there is also a disconnection between people. For example, when we were growing food in France, we would give the excess to the neighbors and they would give us their excess. And as I said before, there is a culture of eating together, which doesn't happen much here. So it's a lack of connection on all levels, unfortunately. Whereas food, from what I understand from our ancestors, is the root of life. You know, you can't live without eating. You can't live without knowing where to get your food and which kind of food is right for you. And you can't live without relying on other people helping you find the food.
Yeah, thank you very much for this sharing. It's yeah, it totally speaks to me. I recognize everything what you said. Just to connect to one point, for example, just lately I was in Portugal, and for case there was one evening there was a man who was he's a coach, healer, something. Uses alternative medicine, and he mentioned something which was interesting for me also, that he said that he now uses food supplements, and he says because he his experience is, or he read, or he did a research, because he is also a researcher or doctor or something, and he said that seemingly our food, even if it is bio, organic, that this food has less nutrients than years before. So it just reminded me what you tell about the smell, and it's opening all what we discuss here. It's just opening a larger field, no, to many more details. What is in the food, how do we perceive the food, how do we share the food, how do we create a community by sharing food, for example, and so on. And all this in in a balanced way would contribute to health, no, to personal health, but also to more environmental health. And there are so many little details that you mentioned, all of you, that would be so important to get more attention to them again, yeah, because this is, you say you experienced it in your own life, and yeah, some persons never had this experience, but it's a blessing to have such an experience, yeah, and it's good that we still have people with such experiences to remind others and to take care about that. This will not be forgotten. Yeah. So yeah, and we all have somehow we all have our possibilities. Yeah, with Juliet, with growing our own food also, and Kubra, what you told about your garden, that was also nice for me to hear, to kind of have a forest garden, no, to use the trees, because we have here also a little community, and we share 2-3 strokes on an acre. It's from a Demeter farm, and we are allowed to use this. And the farmer, he also told you thinking about growing trees in between the fruit, because also here it becomes very dry. We had last year a very dry summer, and the trees could give shadow to what grows underneath, and it creates also more diversity and so on. So it's just from one little thing we can expand, and we see the connection between all these things, and we are challenged to create the balance with all our interventions. Yeah. Oh, I see. It's unbelievable. It's nearly 1 hour gone. Maybe we do a last round. Anything that you want to share to finish our session? I think you all.
I just want to share a quick little story about an experience I had when I did grow. I'm not good at vegetables because you have to pay attention to them and water them. But I had found some radish seeds that were in a cupboard, and they'd been there for like years. And I felt sorry for them because the poor little things didn't have a chance to germinate. And so I planted them, and I put some water on them, and I really didn't pay much attention to them. And I don't know, maybe 3 weeks later or something, they germinated and made little radishes. And I don't even like radishes very much. And so but they grew, so I had to eat them. So I made myself a little radish salad and ate them. And the next day I was walking to a job I was going to, and I felt this feeling of euphoria. And I thought to myself, well, I didn't think anything at that time, but it lasted for maybe about a minute or so. And then later in the afternoon, I was listening to a video from a guy named Anthony Williams. He's a medical medium, and he was talking about the importance of growing your own food, that the plants learn to know what it is that your body needs, and will give that to you when you pay attention to them. And I wondered if that feeling of euphoria came from eating those radishes. And I asked somebody who's more intuitive about that, and they said, yes, that was specifically where you got that feeling from. It was from the radishes. They were giving you thanks for letting them grow. So it gave me a whole new perspective on the importance of growing your own food. So
Wonderful sharing. Thank you. Thank you very much. Nadia or Kubra, something more? Or?
Yeah, I'd like to say what happened to me today, actually. I went on a small walk in the woods with a friend of mine who likes going hiking and sometimes likes going camping. So in my mind, he's far more connected to nature and to health than I am. I live in the city. And he was saying that he was hungry and I wasn't very hungry. And a few minutes later, I started seeing a lot of blackberry bushes, but they were all in flower. And I stopped and I told him, I'm starting to feel hungry now. And what I meant is, I just wish I could eat those blackberry. And he looked at me and he didn't really know what to say. And then I said, unfortunately, I've got to wait a few more months before I can eat. And he was very confused. And I pointed to the bushes and he still didn't understand what I was referring to. So I had to explain these were blackberry bushes. You still can't see the fruits because it's only the flower and they probably won't give any fruits until later in the summer. But I was very surprised because blackberries aren't the most rare fruits. They're common, you find them everywhere. And I went to this walk in the woods with my friend with the assumption that he was more connected to nature and health than I was. And I couldn't believe that I had to explain to him something which I thought is very basic. So it's a little bit sad, but I think it also relates to what Juliet was saying. I mean, not necessarily about growing your food, but picking your food. So the highlight of my walk was really to see those bushes and thinking, in a few months' time, I have to make sure I don't forget to come back to the same spot now that I know where they are. It's a pleasure to pick your own food, to choose which berries you want, to make sure you don't get the thorns on your hand, and then you eat them. I mean, sure, you can find the same one in the market. I don't know whether they taste better or not. It depends which market and where you pick them from. But I think the action of knowing that you chose them, you picked them, makes a difference when you eat them. It's not about being hungry, it's not about feeding your stomach, it's about the whole experience of deciding to pick your own food, even if you don't have the chance to grow it.
Thank you. Wonderful again. Yeah, it's all about the awareness, no? And it's yeah, it's about consciousness. And I know theory about that we would be able as human beings in probably more advanced state than most of us are, but that we indeed would could really know to pick the right fruit in the right moment, the right berry in the right moment from the right bush. Yeah, we could have this sensitivity, but yeah, this is this circle, no, that we are eating in the wrong way and we lose the sensitivity, and then we forget the things that could help us to remember, and all these kind of things. So it's a kind of spiral, and yeah, it's so precious, all these stories that you share, because yeah, I feel very inspired by hearing them, and about everything what we shared so far. And hopefully those who will watch the video later will be as well. Yeah. So if nobody has anything more to share or say, then I would like to close again with a little short meditation, that we close our eyes and that we just connect again to our breath. maybe we can connect to the feeling that we have right now. For me, it's a feeling of gratitude about these wonderful sharings, about the wisdom that I hear, the wisdom that I sense that is still present. And that can help us to create a bright future together when we continue sharing and acting respectfully towards ourselves and to any other being and object that we find in our environment. Inhale very deep. Exhale. And then open your eyes if you want, if you're ready. I thank you so much for sharing this meeting, and thank you all. I wish you a wonderful experience in the next module, and hope to see you in the next live session again, and stay in contact through the platforms. And thank you. Goodbye. Have a good day or evening, whatever comes to you next. And love to you, peace to you. See you. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.